That orange light is an indicator that there is a problem, and that problem being right now I don't have any internet. So my internet is out and I have no way of accessing the programs and the things that I normally would use as my go-tos for inspiration when sitting down to make a beat. A lot of the stuff that I use is sound libraries on the cloud from the company. I don't have anything installed, the sound libraries installed on my computer. So I am a little bit limited right now, not in terms of like the sound selection that I have. I still have a good amount of stuff from Native Instruments, but I don't really use it often. I'm usually either sampling or I'm trying to use some of the libraries that are currently only accessible on the internet. So I'm going to challenge myself today. Instead of, filling the time up and doing something else and waiting for the internet to come back on, and hopefully it's going to be within the next hour or so, and I'm going to try to make a beat with minimal inspiration, not utilizing the resources that I normally would utilize when sitting down to make a beat. I'm just going to try different means and see what I can come up with. So starting with the drums, I used pretty much any kit from Native Instruments that I like the sounds from. I was just kind of sifting through a lot of different options. I started off with this kick here. This snare, I think, is pivotal for the sound of these drums. That's fire. Another kick that I'm gonna have to use auto align or something else to match the phase. I know that, but it still is knocking already. An 808, really short burst, but dope. That's a dope hi-hat. And this is the groove that I got so far. So here's how I normally swing my drums. With the kick drum, I have the cycle set on 1/4. And the amount at 20%. That's a good place for me for my kicks. So I get like a little offset or drift in the kick. And here's with the swing. And then I'll add the snare in. And if I zoom in here, you'll see it's a little bit forward. So I also set my snare to be in the cycle 1/4, and the amount here I got 30, but that means that the snare, if I do things like this, where I add this kind of ghost note snare, it's gonna hit with the groove of how I have the kick set up, and the hi-hats are also gonna then hit with the groove of how I have the kick set up. So the kick is really that anchor element, and everything is going to follow that or be exactly the same as that, because I don't like my hi-hats hitting before the kick. Sounds sloppy to me. I like everything kind of shifted forward, and the kick is the thing that kind of always will either hit first or everything will be exact with the kick. So this is the kick and the snare. Hit a little ghost note snare, that was fire. We put this other kick in here, and let's put the 808 in. And then we got this hi-hat here. Now the hi-hats I usually swing a little bit more dramatic, but here, same 1/4 and 23% swing, a little bit later than the kick. And then I also dragged the hi-hats slightly off the grid. And another thing that I like to do with my hi-hats is I like to, if I have a steady hi-hat pattern like this, I like to have the hi-hats hitting at different velocities. So 170, 170, 100. So it's kind of like high, low in terms of velocity. High, low, high, low. And then lastly, I took this kind of crash thing here and just had that play like that. And again, we got the drums sounding like this. You hear how on the snare, it's like a flam. It's like a slap delay or something. Snare hits, hi-hat hits. Like that's the kind of sound that I like. And if the kick doesn't have, the sample that you use doesn't have like a hi-hat built in, sometimes when people create their kicks and they layer them, there's like a top kick that's used to layer the kick. And sometimes that's going to be like a transient kind of hi-hat sound. that could clash with the hi-hat that you end up using on the kick as well. So if you want that kind of slap delay effect, you would need to make sure the kick you use doesn't have that kind of top kick element to it, or else it's going to sound kind of weird. And I want to show you too, this is what it sounds like when everything is not swung and it's just quantized to the grid. So then I came up with this melody here, and I got this sound from Native Instruments Cloud Supply, and it's this sound right here. So here's the melody that I played. I rocked with it, simple melody, but what I did was I added kickstart, and that created even more of a groove for the instrument as well. And all kickstart is doing is ducking the sound. It's ducking on every single hit. You can set different values for it. I like the way that it grooves when it's set on 1/8. So it's hitting every single time. It's ducking every time this instrument hits. So it takes a little bit of that initial transient off the instrument and just makes it sound, for me, really good. The intro starts with that and the 808, but I pitched the 808 up an octave. So the way that I wanted to start the song out is like this. And then for this section, when the beat drops, I wanted it to hit harder. So all I did was pitch up the synth sound here an octave, and this is what that sounds like. And let's play from the intro to when it drops, and let's hear how it sounds. And to think that I was going to give in to this internet outage issue and just say, you know what, I don't got my natural, normal workflow going for me, so let me just step away, do something else before the kids wake up, and I'll get back to this later when the internet comes back on. Mind you, at the filming of this video, it's 11:39 a.m. I sat down and made this beat at about 6 a.m. and the internet is still not working. So if I don't have that mindset to make the best out of a situation and use what I have and stretch myself outside the comfort zone to, I mean, don't get me wrong, the sounds that I got at my disposal are fire. I just have go-tos to get a beat started. One of the go-tos is Splice for my drums. Another go-to is TrackLib for sampling, you know, stuff like that. And then if I would need to use the sounds that I have with Native Instruments or some other library, I would. A lot of my libraries, though, are, you know, going to be dependent on the internet. That's where the sounds are being pulled from. They're cloud. So I don't have that, and I was like really worried that I'm gonna just waste time making a beat that I'm not gonna use. And honestly, this beat is fire, and I'm gonna add to it and finish it. My next stage here will be to basically take this finished beat, bring it into Pro Tools to mix. I don't like to mix in a machine because there's no automatic delay compensation, so I can't use the plugins that I would normally use to mix. You can mix in the machine, but it is not as capable for mixing in the same way you'll be able to achieve a good mix from Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton, programs like that. So I hope this video encouraged you and inspired you to sometimes work outside of your comfort zone in terms of workflow. And even if it's not workflow related, just get outside the comfort zone and do different things, use different sounds, stop sounding like every trend that's currently out there, and just use what the trend is communicating. Like if there's a certain vibe or sound, like try to stay within a trend if you want to be current, but put your own sound to that. And sometimes that's as simple as just using a different kick sound or a different snare sound, or making your drums swing a little bit different than the current, way that drums are hitting and the way that drums are quantized. Use a different 808 or different bass line than what's typical. Just put your stamp, your sound on it more than you might normally would. That's kind of the goal of what I'm trying to communicate in this video. And I pray that that resonates with you. So if you like this video, if you like content like this with me producing and kind of breaking down my thought process, my workflow, then please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Hit that bell notification icon and leave a comment and let me know if this video helped you, and let me know what other ideas you might want to throw my way to help create content that will be geared toward you and your needs, because that's who I am ultimately trying to serve. So until the next video, my name is Dax Hammer. May God bless you. Peace.